Okay, so it is about 1 in the morning right now. I should be in bed. Quite frankly, I should have been in bed hours ago. I normally am in bed hours ago, but tonight I saw Joker Folie Deux in 4DX with Tim, and I wanted to go to bed, but I'm home, and I just got home like 10 minutes ago, and I'm still, I don't want to say mad, but I am baffled. I am absolutely baffled. Now, I've already made it clear I'm not a fan of the first Joker. I already think that's a bad movie. I think it's essentially a greatest hits collection of the King of Comedy and Taxi Driver wrapped up in this ball that attempts to say something about mental health care, but I think ultimately fails at actually grasping at everything, and ultimately feels like an ultimately uncreative exercise, which would make you think I would have zero interest in seeing a sequel to this movie. And in most cases, you would be correct. But then they cast Lady Gaga, and then they make it a musical. So naturally, I was going to be there opening night, just like I was for the first Joker movie, because what? You're making it a musical? Well, audience, I'm going to get two things out of the way here real quick, actually. One, I think calling this a musical is a little generous. Musical is a genre that this barely falls into, quite frankly. And two, I'm going to be spoiling the shit out of this. So if you do care, walk away. I'll give you the quick non-spoiler review. I really don't like this movie. I might like it less than the first one. Let's get into it. Okay, so the crux of the film seems to be two parts. One, they seem to be attempting to do some kind of reverse Joker and Harley thing. In the comics, the Joker famously made Harley crazy. In this one, they seem to be attempting this thing where Arthur is mostly a healed man and Harley makes him insane again, which could be an interesting angle. I do think it is ultimately an ineffective one. However, I don't think it sticks the landing at all. And two, this is the most baffling thing. The first 30 minutes of the movie, dare I say, is actually interesting. It's engaging. I was having a good time the first 20, 30 minutes. But they keep building up to this thing being Arthur, who is being deemed legally competent and not insane, is going to be standing on trial for all the murders he committed in the first movie, right? Well, what that turns into is that the majority of this movie is literally, and this almost sounds like a joke, but it's literally just litigating and relitigating the events of the first movie. It's literally being like, hey, you know that thing that happened? How did that make you feel? It's like drawing out in excruciating detail the point of the first movie, which is so incredibly baffling, while there's this Joker Harley romantic subplot happening at the same time, but then that sort of just completely falls apart at the end. Arthur, he has a lawyer, and then he decides to start defending himself in court. Sure, whatever. Great men do that, I guess. I don't know, great man theory. So he does that, and I'm aware I'm all over the place with this one. It's just the plot. It's so baffling. What? I have never seen a movie that so seems to openly hate the fans of the first one, because it seems to be walking back anything of interest that the first movie tried to say. Meanwhile, there are a bunch of musical sequences, and you know me, I love musicals. I don't think these sequences really work that well for a couple of reasons. One, they're always kind of awkwardly placed. Most of them are just dream sequences that don't really give us that much further insight into Arthur's mind. And third, Joaquin Phoenix, I think, just straight up sounds bad in this movie. I haven't heard him sing before, so I don't know if that was like a choice they made or if he's just legitimately a bad singer. I don't know. If he is just legitimately a bad singer, I don't know, dub him, because it was kind of distracting just how much his voice would strain on like half of the notes. And listen, I'm not a great singer myself. I'm not one to judge, but it's kind of annoying. And it's also not the least of the movie's problems in that specific regard. Even as someone who didn't like the first movie, I always maintained that I thought Joaquin Phoenix did a good job, that he gave a very good performance in the first movie. He doesn't here. He spends most of the movie just kind of sleepwalking through events, while in every scene Lady Gaga, quite frankly, is giving it her all. That's not to say it's over the top performance. It's actually a very subdued performance from Lady Gaga, which I think was a good choice from her. I think she's actually great in this movie. She is the like lone bright side to this movie. She's great. The movie in general, I wrote a script in college that was a sequel to a short film I wrote, in which the main character of the first movie is going on trial to defend himself and to, like, you know, litigate the events of the first movie. I passed the script around for notes. I mostly got so-so notes, but the most important note came from a dear friend of mine at the time, which was, he told me straight up, Tanner, this is like an exercise in narcissism. Maybe I was just ahead of my time, because I'm hard pressed to think of a bigger exercise in narcissism than Joker Folie do. A baffling movie full of baffling decisions that spends most of the runtime boringly retreading events covered in a bad movie that already came out 5 years ago. And then at the end, it does a bunch of gratuitous bullshit like, oh, Harvey Dent's in this movie, he has to have half his face blown off. But the dumbest goddamn thing about it is Arthur Fleck dying at the end by this guy that then carves a smile into his face, because that's the real Joker. Now, I will say that in general, I do think I might admire this movie more than the first one, because it takes a bigger, bolder, creative swings, which makes the fact that it ultimately just falls flat on its face all the more infuriating. The first Joker movie is bad because it's shallow and it's a ripoff of better movies. This movie is bad because it sets itself up perfectly, and they could take it in so many interesting, good directions, and they take the single most boring path possible. I read someone say that it seems like this movie is Todd Phillips openly saying he hates what Joker did for his career. Well, yeah, I guess that sucks, man. I'm sorry that you made a movie that was nominated for double-digit Academy Awards. That must have been really fucking hard. In conclusion, Joker 2 is a mostly poorly acted, poorly directed, poorly written, baffling court drama musical that has a single bright spot in Lady Gaga, but otherwise can ultimately be disregarded. It's just, it's baffling. This movie is baffling. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon. I'd appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching this little just impromptu rant. Bye.
Just slid my ticket across the table and I said, sorry guys, I gotta see about a girl.